What if the plant sitting on your kitchen counter right now could kill your cat before morning? What if the shrub your neighbor swears by could stop a child's heart with a single leaf? I know that sounds dramatic, but every claim I just made is backed by poison control data, veterinary emergency reports, and botanical toxicology research. Today I'm counting down 9 of the most dangerous plants still being sold at nurseries right now, with 0 warning labels and 0 apology. Some of these you've definitely seen, some you probably own. And number 2 is one of the most purchased houseplants in the world. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you will never walk through a garden center the same way again. I'm Liam, welcome back. And if you're new here, genuinely good timing on this one. I've spent years around gardens, nurseries, and plant collections, and the thing that still gets me, still after all this time, is how casually dangerous plants are sold to everyday people with no warning whatsoever. The ASPCA, the American Poison Control Network, and the Royal Horticultural Society all maintain extensive lists of plants that can seriously harm or kill pets and people. And yet, there they are, sitting pretty under nursery grow lights with nothing but a price tag on the pot. Before we get into it, subscribe and hit that notification bell. I put out videos on gardening safety and plant care every week, and this is exactly the kind of content that could genuinely protect someone you love. Alright, let's start with number 9 and work our way up to the one that honestly keeps me up at night. Number 9. Hydrangea, the beautiful deceiver. Let's open with one that catches people completely off guard, because hydrangeas are everywhere. Front yards, wedding centerpieces, farmhouse kitchen tables, they're practically the mascot of wholesome home gardening. Those massive ball-shaped clusters of flowers in soft pink, blue, and white, almost impossible not to love. But here's what nobody at the nursery tells you. The leaves, flower buds, and stems of hydrangeas contain cyanogenic glycosides, compounds that your body can convert into hydrogen cyanide after ingestion. Now, to be fair, you typically need to consume a fairly large quantity for a human adult to reach dangerous toxicity levels. But children and pets operate on a completely different scale. A curious toddler chewing on a few flower buds or a dog eating a handful of leaves is a very different situation than an adult accidentally swallowing a small piece. Symptoms include nausea, vomiting, stomach cramps, and in more serious cases, rapid breathing and a drop in blood pressure. Pet owners especially need to pay attention here. Dogs seem particularly drawn to chewing on garden plants, and hydrangea ingestion is a more common vet visit than most people realize. The frustrating part? Hydrangeas are sold absolutely everywhere with no warning of any kind. They're marketed purely on aesthetics. If you love that lush, full-bloom look in your garden, swap them out for peonies or garden roses. Same romantic, overflowing beauty, none of the hidden chemistry lesson. Number 8, philodendron, the houseplant Hall of Famer with a dark side. Walk into any home decor store, any plant shop, any office building lobby, and you'll find a philodendron, climbing up a trellis, spilling out of a hanging basket, trailing across a shelf. They're sold as the ultimate beginner plant, low light, low maintenance, practically indestructible. And they do look incredible. Those big, glossy, heart-shaped leaves just make a space feel alive. But here's the catch. Philodendrons contain calcium oxalate crystals, microscopic needle-shaped structures embedded throughout the plant tissue. When a child or pet chews on a leaf, those crystals drive themselves into the soft tissue of the mouth, tongue, and throat like tiny shards of glass. The immediate result is intense burning pain, swelling, and excessive drooling. In pets, it can cause pawing at the mouth, vomiting, and real difficulty swallowing. Now, philodendrons are not going to kill a healthy adult in normal circumstances. But for a small child who decides to put a leaf in their mouth, and small children put everything in their mouths, it is a genuinely distressing and potentially dangerous experience. For cats and dogs, the reaction can be severe enough to need veterinary attention, particularly if they manage to eat more than a small amount. Poison control centers across the US and Europe field regular calls about philodendron exposure every single year. And still, no warning label, not one. If you want that same lush, trailing, tropical aesthetic without the risk, go with a pothos, and even pothos has some mild oxalate content, so keep it out of reach of pets, or better yet, a spider plant, which is genuinely non-toxic and just as easy to grow. Number 7. Monk's Hood, the queen of poisons in a pretty disguise. This one has a nickname that should tell you everything you need to know. The queen of poisons. Monk's Hood, also known as aconitum or wolfsbane, produces tall, elegant spikes of deep blue and purple flowers that look almost regal in a garden border. It has the kind of dramatic, vertical presence that garden designers love, and nurseries stock it regularly because the visual impact is undeniable. But here is where it gets genuinely alarming. Monk's hood doesn't even need to be eaten to hurt you. The toxin, aconitine, can be absorbed directly through the skin. Experienced gardeners have reported tingling and numbness in their fingers after handling the plant without gloves. Ingesting even a small amount has been documented as fatal throughout history. Ancient Romans used it as a method of execution. Medieval hunters used it to poison arrow tips. It has been linked to poisoning cases as recently as the last decade in Europe, including a case where a gardener was hospitalized after working with the plant barehanded for an afternoon. The aconitine in monk's hood attacks the nervous system rapidly. Symptoms include intense tingling, burning sensations that spread through the body, severely irregular heartbeat, muscle weakness, and in serious cases, respiratory failure. The window between exposure and serious harm is uncomfortably short. And yet, there it sits at your local garden center, labeled simply as a cottage garden perennial. If you want that tall, dramatic purple flower spike in your border, plant salvia or veronicastrum instead. Same bold vertical presence, same rich color, zero toxicity risk to anyone touching or tending them. Number 6. Azalea and rhododendron. Pretty enough to kill spring arrives, and nurseries load up with azaleas and rhododendrons, absolutely loaded. And it makes sense. When they're in bloom, these shrubs are breathtaking. Walls of color in every pink, red, purple, and white you can imagine. Homeowners snap them up because they're hardy, they're evergreen, and they transform a front yard overnight. But behind every one of those blooms is a group of toxins called toxins. And these are not mild irritants. They're serious compounds that interfere directly with your body's sodium channels, which are the electrical signals that control your nerves, your muscles, and critically your heart. Even a few leaves, some flowers, or a small amount of nectar can trigger nausea, severe abdominal cramping, dizziness, dangerously low blood pressure, and, in extreme cases, cardiac complications and coma. The history here is wild. There are records going back thousands of years of what became known as mad honey, produced by bees that fed heavily on rhododendron nectar in parts of Turkey and the Black Sea region. Ancient accounts describe entire armies becoming violently incapacitated after consuming it, with symptoms of confusion, vomiting, inability to stand, and temporary paralysis. The toxin was potent enough to survive into the honey itself. That's not a folktale, that's documented military history. Today, poison control centers still receive regular calls about pets, especially dogs, chewing on azalea leaves. The ASPCA lists azaleas among the top plants capable of causing fatal poisoning in animals. Veterinarians in areas where azaleas are common landscape plants treat toxicity cases every spring. If you want that explosion of seasonal color without the risk, plant camellias or viburnum. You get the same lush, showy display, the same long-lasting garden presence, and none of the toxicology. Number 5. Castor bean, nursery plant, weapons-grade poison. I want you to think about a plant with massive, star-shaped tropical leaves, tall dramatic stems, and spiky red seed pods that look like something from a botanical garden showpiece. Visually, the castor bean plant is genuinely stunning. Fast-growing, space-filling, exotic-looking. Nurseries sell it for all of those reasons, and gardeners who want impact fast love what it delivers. Now I want you to think about ricin. Yes, that ricin. The poison you've heard about in spy thrillers, in news stories about bioterrorism, in crime dramas, the one that has no antidote and works by shutting down your body's ability to produce the proteins it needs to survive, leading to multi-organ failure. Ricin comes directly from the seeds of the castor bean plant. 2 to 3 seeds contain enough ricin to kill a child, for a small pet, even less. There have been real documented cases of children mistaking the shiny, mottled seeds for candy or decorative beads and ending up in emergency rooms. Poison control centers have logged numerous castor bean poisonings over the years. The plant is restricted or outright banned in several jurisdictions specifically because of how dangerous it is around people and animals. Handling the seeds without washing your hands afterward and then accidentally touching your eyes or mouth can be enough to cause a reaction. And this plant is still sold at garden centers, sometimes without any warning label at all. If you want that bold, tropical, large leaf statement in your garden, elephant ear or canna lily gives you everything the castor bean delivers visually: the drama, the scale, the lush tropical presence. with zero risk to anyone near it. Number 4. Sago palm, the silent killer dressed as a showpiece. The sago palm is one of those plants that just looks expensive. Stiff, dark green fronds fanning out from a thick, textured trunk. It has this architectural resort lobby quality that makes people want it on their patio or in their living room. Nurseries market it as low maintenance and long-lived, which it is. What they almost never mention is that it is one of the most reliably lethal plants for pets that exists. Every single part of the sago palm is toxic. Fronds, trunk, roots, all of it. But the seeds are in a different category entirely. They contain a toxin called psychocin, which attacks the liver with devastating efficiency. For dogs and cats, even a very small nibble of a seed can initiate a cascade of liver failure that is extremely difficult to reverse once it begins. Veterinary hospitals across the United States consistently rank sago palm among the top causes of fatal plant poisoning in pets year after year. The cases are heartbreaking in a very specific way. The plant doesn't look dangerous. There are no thorns, no bright warning colors, no smell, nothing that signals threat. A dog finds a fallen seed in the yard, chews it out of curiosity, and by the time symptoms appear, vomiting, lethargy, jaundice, seizures, the liver damage is already advanced. Treatment is expensive, intensive, and the survival rate, even with aggressive veterinary care, is low. If you want that tropical palm aesthetic on your patio or in your entryway, an areca palm or a ponytail palm gives you the same architectural resort quality look with no toxicity risk to pets or people whatsoever. The visual payoff is identical. The risk is gone entirely. Number 3. Dumb cane, the houseplant that can silence you, dieffenbachia. You've seen it. Large, glossy leaves in deep green splashed with creamy white or pale yellow. It's sold in practically every nursery, garden center, hardware store, and supermarket plant section. It tolerates low light, requires minimal care, and looks genuinely elegant in a living room or office corner. All of that is true. Here's what's also true. Inside every leaf of this plant are thousands of microscopic calcium oxalate crystals arranged into needle-like structures called raphides. When a person or animal bites into a leaf, and children and pets both do this without warning, those crystals are mechanically fired into the soft tissues of the mouth and throat. It's not a chemical reaction that takes time, it's immediate, physical, and violent at a microscopic scale. The burning starts within seconds. Then comes the swelling, lips, tongue, gums, the back of the throat. In severe cases, the swelling progresses far enough to make speaking extremely difficult and swallowing genuinely painful. In the most serious exposures, particularly in small children or pets who have chewed through significant amounts of the plant, the swelling can compromise the airway enough to require emergency medical treatment to keep it open. That's why it's called dumb cane. Historically, the plant earned that name because victims were left temporarily unable to speak. It wasn't a metaphor, it was a documented effect. Poison control centers across North America and Europe receive regular calls about dieffenbachia exposure. Many involve toddlers, many involve cats and dogs, and in virtually every case the family had no idea the plant was dangerous. If you love that bold-leafed tropical indoor aesthetic, a parlor palm or Boston fern delivers the same lush, statement-making presence with zero risk. Same vibe, same ease of care, none of the emergency room potential. Number 2. Foxglove, the fairy tale plant with a lethal dose. If you've ever seen foxglove growing in a cottage garden or a wildflower meadow, you understand immediately why people want it. Tall, graceful spires covered in tubular bell-shaped flowers in shades of purple, pink, white, and cream, each one delicately speckled inside like something illustrated in a children's storybook. Nurseries love stocking foxglove because it photographs beautifully, it attracts bees and hummingbirds, and it has this effortless, romantic quality that turns an ordinary flower bed into something enchanting. Now here's what that enchanting plant contains: digitalis glycosides. The same compounds that, in pharmaceutical form, have been used for centuries to treat heart failure. Digoxin, extracted and purified from foxglove, is still used in cardiac medicine today. The difference between the medication and the plant is dose control. In the drug, every microgram is measured and monitored. In the plant, you have no idea what you're getting, and the line between a cardiac dose and a fatal dose is razor thin. Ingesting foxglove leaves, flowers, seeds, or even water that cut stems have been sitting in can cause severe nausea and vomiting, visual disturbances, a dangerous and erratic heartbeat, seizures, and cardiac arrest. Children are at particular risk because the tubular flowers look genuinely inviting. They look like something you'd find in a candy display, not a toxicology case study. In the UK, there have been documented cases of gardeners developing serious symptoms simply from handling foxglove extensively without gloves and then touching their mouth. Emergency rooms in countries where foxglove grows widely see accidental ingestion cases with real regularity. This is not a theoretical risk, it is an active one, sold at nurseries in the spring right next to the petunias. If you want that tall, vertical, colorful flower spike in your garden, snapdragons are your answer. Same heights, same color range, pinks, purples, yellows, whites, same ability to draw in pollinators and completely safe for children and animals. Number 1, oleander. Every part, every time. No exceptions, we've made it to number 1. And I want you to really sit with this one because oleander is not rare, it's not exotic, and it's not hidden away in specialist nurseries. It is one of the most widely planted ornamental shrubs in warm climates across the entire world. Roadsides, parks, shopping center landscaping, suburban front yards, school grounds, oleander is everywhere. And in a way, that's exactly what makes it number 1 on this list. The plant itself is undeniably gorgeous, tall, dense, and covered in clusters of flowers in vivid pink, red, white, or soft yellow. It has this lush, almost Mediterranean quality that makes landscapes look vibrant and alive. It's drought-resistant, fast-growing, salt-tolerant, and thrives in heat. From a purely horticultural standpoint, it's a remarkably useful plant. Nurseries sell enormous quantities of it for all of those reasons. But here is the reality of oleander. Every single part of this plant contains cardiac glycosides, the same class of toxins used in heart medications, at concentrations that are completely uncontrolled and capable of killing. Leaves, flowers, stems, roots. The smoke produced when you burn the clippings. Even honey produced by bees that have been foraging heavily on oleander nectar. There is no safe part of this plant. A single leaf contains enough toxin to cause serious cardiac symptoms in a small child. Ingestion in sufficient quantity causes irregular heartbeat, severely slowed pulse, vomiting, collapse, and without rapid medical intervention, death. In California, veterinary and agricultural records include cases of horses dying after eating oleander branches that had been trimmed and tossed near a pasture. Pet hospitals issue seasonal warnings specifically around oleander pruning time because dogs and cats encounter the fallen clippings. And the terrifying footnote to all of this? Oleander is still planted at schools, still used in public parks, still sold in large quantities at garden centers without any warning that it can kill. If you want that vibrant, flowering, heat-tolerant shrub for a warm climate garden, hibiscus is your answer in every possible way. Same tropical color intensity, same ease of growth, same visual impact, and it is completely non-toxic to people, pets, and every other living thing that shares your garden. Before I wrap up, I want to give you 3 quick safety rules that tie everything we just talked about together. First, look up the scientific name of any plant before you buy it. The common name means nothing from a safety standpoint. Lily covers dozens of species with completely different toxicity profiles. 30 seconds on your phone before you hand over your money can prevent a genuinely awful situation. Second, if you ever suspect a child or pet has chewed on any plant you can't immediately identify as safe, don't wait for symptoms to appear. For pets, call your vet or an emergency animal hospital right now. For people, call poison control immediately. The single most important factor in outcomes for plant poisoning is how quickly treatment begins. Time is not on your side once symptoms start. Third, build your garden around safe, proven alternatives: lavender, marigolds, sunflowers, snapdragons, roses, camellias. There is no shortage of beautiful, impactful, garden-worthy plants that carry zero toxicity risk. You do not have to choose between a stunning garden and a safe one. That's a false choice, and I want you to know that. And here's the thought I want to leave you with. Nurseries are businesses. Their job is to sell plants, not to protect you from them. The warning label is your responsibility, and now you actually have the information to act on it. Share this video with every plant lover you know, your neighbor who just bought a sago palm, your friend who has a toddler and a house full of dieffenbachia, Your parents who planted oleander along the back fence. This is the kind of information that genuinely matters. Drop a comment and tell me, which plant on this list genuinely shocked you the most? Was it the oleander that's sitting in half the front yards in your neighborhood, the castor bean with its weapons-grade toxin, or maybe the foxglove that looks like it belongs in a fairy tale but acts like a cardiac medication with no prescription? I want to know. I read every comment and I love this conversation. Hit that like button if this gave you something valuable, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next one. Stay curious, stay safe, and know what you're bringing into your home.